SBA will determine from the information that is being submitted through the application, the SBA will actually determine how much money you will be eligible for your loan. So these are long-term loans. They're 30-year loans, and the fixed interest rate is 3.75% for a small business, 2.75% for not-for-profits. So they're low interest, long term, so that when you're repaying, that you don't have to worry about huge payments coming in. And then these loan funds can be used for fixed debt payments, to do payroll, pay accounts payable, and other bills, rent, working capital. I mean, it covers a lot of things that you can use this money towards. And so it just helps you maintain your operations during this time. So for collateral, anything over $25,000 does require collateral. So that means first that anything under $25,000 does not need any collateral, any loans under that. Over that, we do want all the real estate eligible to be used towards collateral. If for some reason there is a lack of collateral, that is not a reason that we can decline you for this economic injury loan. We will take whatever we can or that is eligible to try at least get close to collateralizing the loan. And I also want to mention at this time that these are direct loans from the SBA. As most of you may know, typically we do loan guarantees to the bank, and we don't do direct lending. But when there is a disaster declared, such as this, these are the times that we do direct lending. We also did that when a disaster was declared after the Memorial Day tornadoes. Those were direct loans from the SBA. So a few of some of the paperwork that you're going to need to apply. Obviously the application, there are tax forms that we will need to see, the federal income tax, schedule of liabilities, and the personal financial statement. These are going to help us determine a number of things. We're going to look at your credit history. We're going to look at your ability to repay, and this will also tell us about where your physical location is. Although I already said that everybody's going to be eligible because all 50 states are declared a disaster, and we are a federal program, so we cover all 50 states. So that's not a hurdle that you need to get over at this time, but the credit history and the repayment will be looked at when determining if you're eligible for this loan. So I will tell you that there have been declines already in loans. But what we do in the Columbus District Office is we are reaching out to anybody who gets declined to talk about other solutions that you may look at. Soon we are going to start seeing a lot of predatory lending. We're going to see a lot of scams and schemes of people trying to reach out to small businesses, whether it's charging you to fill out an application, whether it's offering you quick loans to get you some money, but then the interest rates, 100%, 25% even. So you need to watch out for those types of scams and schemes. Our application costs nothing to apply. If you are awarded a loan, you're not even obligated to take that loan. You can say, no, I'm good now. You know, if it takes a week or two to hear back and things have passed or eased up and you don't need that money, that's something that you can let us know. And there's free assistance as well through the small business development centers. We have 24 in the state of Ohio. You're never more than 50 miles away from one. There's one in downtown Dayton, and they cover the surrounding Miami Valley. And they can help you package up your application, your financials that you're going to need, and it's not going to cost you anything. So just be wary of people who are looking to charge you money to do some of this work on your behalf. So we'll also need personal tax returns for all principals. That's anybody who owns 20% or more of the business. Year-end financial statements, profit and loss, and monthly sales. And again, these are things that we're gonna look at repayment, ability to repay the loan. So some of the businesses that are ineligible are farms, religious organizations, gambling concerns, casinos, racetracks. When we talk about gambling concerns, that's a business that earns a third or more of their money, their profits comes from gambling, would be under that. So some of these, especially farms, they could tap into some money through the USDA possibly. So that's something to look into. So how do you apply? So if you go to the first link there, disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA, that's going to take you into, and I'm going to show you the website here in a few minutes. It'll take you, it's a direct link, and you're going to be able to navigate through not only determining your location, if determining and how to apply. It'll take you a direct link into the electronic application. There is a 1-800 number and an email if you have questions. I would shy away from that. I would call somebody in the Columbus district office first. For you people in Dayton, which is I'm sure most of you on the line here, you can call me directly and I will help walk you through the application. I will answer questions that you may have. And if I don't know the answer, I can either find somebody on my team who does have the answer. Worst case scenario, you may have to call the 1-800 number, but the wait times are very long, over an hour sometimes, and I think they're even going to get longer after all 50 states are eligible for this. You can also do paper loan applications, but they do not recommend that, only because that's going to add a lot more time into the processing of your application. As you're filling out your application, first of all, you want to submit a complete application as soon as you can, because all 50 states are going to be online eligible for this loan application, and we are going to get inundated with them. So if you can submit a complete application soon, that's going to be your best bet. But missing information is the biggest cause for a delay. If you don't know what to put in a section, give me a call, give one of my coworkers a call, and we can help you decide what to put in there. Don't just leave it blank, because then they're going to kick it back to you after a week or however long it's going to take them to get to it. They're going to kick it back to you and say, you missed this section. As I did mention though, section 15 or question 15, whatever you want to call it on the application, is not to be filled out. I've been told that it's actually grayed out so that you can't put any information in there. But again, the SBA is going to determine the loan amount based on the information that you are submitting. So this is what the homepage to the disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA looks like. So you can look at eligible disaster loans or disaster areas. That was an issue last week because Ohio hadn't declared a disaster yet, and it's very specific as the Memorial Day tornadoes. If that was the case today, that would help you determine whether or not you're in the disaster area. But as I mentioned, every county in Ohio, the whole state has been declared a disaster. So you wouldn't have to go there to find a disaster area. You would just go ahead and go to apply online. So this will be the first page that you see. A lot of people probably haven't filled out a disaster loan at this point in their lifetime. So you would need to register to get a username, password, and it's going to ask some information, personal information from you. If you have done a disaster loan in the past, you should be able to just log in and do a new application. And if you did fill out an application before for like the Memorial Day tornadoes or for a past flood, you still are eligible for this money now because this is a completely different disaster. So you would still be eligible to get this loan. So I'm going to pull up the application here in a minute in a bigger view so that you can read it a little bit better. But you just want to pay the close attention to the sections with asterisks because those are required to be completed before you're going to be able to move on. And so just make sure you're filling out those sections for sure. This is just some of me and my colleagues, my name and phone number, email is in the first line. I can take calls from anybody, but my main focus is the Dayton region. My colleague, Joshua Sutzman, he is in Cincinnati. Don't pay attention to his phone number. He transferred from Florida, from the Miami office in Florida. So he still has that phone number, but he's the branch manager for Cincinnati, and he can also answer your questions. And then I added two of my colleagues from Columbus who are lender relations specialists. So they know the lending side very well. And so if you have specific financial questions, they would be ones very good to reach out to. So let me pull up. Are there any questions at this time?
Yeah, Alex, this is Jessica. We do have a question about what is the timeline from application to approval if you're qualified?
So what I've heard is 21 days is the amount of time to wait. Now, I talked to some companies last week and over the weekend who said that they heard back in 3 or 4 days. So there's quite a big range there. So unfortunately, I can't give you a great answer, and I think that's only going to get longer as all 50 states come online. And so that's why we're really encouraging people to get something in soon, as soon as you can.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
From people wondering, we will give out a copy of this presentation. We're also recording this presentation, and we'll send that out to everyone as well. A couple other questions, Alex.
Yeah.
If there are parties on the application, are all of the parties weighed equally?
It just depends. It depends on the percentage of ownership as to what they look at, but typically they do weigh them equally.
Okay, terrific. Another question for nonprofits, as long as they didn't make a $5 million profit last year, the 500 person employment number does not apply. And that's a question.
That, I know it depends on the NAICS code is what they're going to be looking at for that. So depending on your NAICS code is which determination they're going to look at. So if you can go to SBA.gov and it'll tell you, you can look up your eligibility to see if you are actually a small business. By that, if you have trouble with that, have somebody, feel free to contact me and I can help you walk through that.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Is there another question? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Alex.
Real quick, Jessica, just to add something to that. Our definitions do cover about 95 to almost 99% of all businesses in the U.S. are considered small by our definitions.
Okay.
So chances are you are a small business.
That's good to know. Is there a minimum number of years a business must be open to apply?
No, there is no minimum of years. I've had people who just opened in February who are applying. So there is no limit on it. So I would encourage everybody to apply.
And it sounds like the quicker you apply, the better, correct?
That's correct. If you want a quicker turnaround time, then yeah, I would get it in sooner rather than later.
Okay, we have several more questions.
Okay.
Alex, next, since this is sort of a fluid process, fluid situation, and we don't know kind of how long we'll be in this situation, can multiple loans be requested?
Well, if that's the case, you are able to go back in and request more money, as long as you haven't reached the maximum at the time. You can go in and request more money. You would just have to provide a little more documentation showing why you may need that extra money. But you can up the amount if they come back to you and say, hey, you're eligible for 50,000 and that's only going to work for you for, a few weeks, and a few weeks go by and you're going to be needing more money, then you can ask to have more money allocated to you. But each business is only eligible to up to $2 million.
Are nonprofits also subject to the 15 million net worth max?
Yes. Yes, they are as well. I'm not sure where the number came from within the SBA, but yeah, that would apply to the nonprofits as well.
Okay. Does the application affect borrowers who have already hit their SBA loan limits?
Well, that's a great question. I want to say I don't think it will be, but I will have to look a little further into that one. I haven't had that question yet.
Okay. And everyone, again, will provide, Alex sort of gave you his phone number, but we'll provide his contact information as well in an email that wraps everything up. So that way you have it for the future. Next question, this might be a little bit of crystal ball. Someone says they've read multiple sources about a possible stimulus package that the SBA will give grants instead of loans for small businesses to maintain payroll. Do you know anything or have any insight into that?
I have not heard that at all. I know there is a stimulus package being proposed through Congress, but honestly, I haven't read it, so I don't know exactly what's in it. The only things I've heard of are the checks to individuals. I have not heard anything about the grants though.
Okay. Still have lots more questions to get through. Let me just get caught up with everything. So one question you've answered the time from application to approval, 21 days. What is the time from approval to funding or the closing?
That's another question I haven't had. I will look into that. And please, I do want to mention, I apologize if some of my answers may be a little vague, but I do want everybody to know that typically the disaster team within the SBA is a completely separate team. And so like when the Memorial Day tornadoes hit and Dayton area was declared a disaster, a team from Atlanta came up to stay in the Dayton area for, I think, 3 to 6 months. And they manned computers at various locations to help people process applications, answer questions. And the field, that is me, had really no interaction with them except finding them those locations. But now everybody in the SBA has become the disaster team. So we're kind of learning this on the fly as well. But I will find out these answers and let you know, Jessica, that maybe you can throw those back out to the group.
That sounds great. Thank you. Again, we'll kind of keep plowing through these questions. What type of codes will apply for NPOs?
The only guidance that we've got have received on the nonprofits are that they have to be non-charitable. So that can mean different things. Maybe in the nonprofit world, it means it's very specific. I'm not sure about that, but that's the only guidance that we've received, is that they have to be non-charitable.
Okay. Get through a couple other questions here. So you touched base on this a little bit already, but what determines the loan amount of eligibility?
Well, it's the application, it's the forms, the tax returns, the tax forms that are submitted to the SBA. They determine how much, and when I say they, it's the processing center is the one who determines how many or how much money the loan will be for. So that I have no role in the eligibility or the processing. My role is mainly to promote this loan application, to help with the loan application and answer questions. So I'm not sure what their formula is to determine that amount.
Okay, and I'm going to do one last question for now, Alex, and then if you want to hop in and kind of go through this application, and then the other questions we get in before the 10 o'clock time frame, we can do that. And for those of you that typed out a question and I just can't get to it, I will send those to Alex, and then he can make sure he gets some answers or at least some guidance. So last question for now. Will the loans be made available for businesses that were intending to open in the next few months, but are now delayed because of the situation?
My gut instinct is saying no, that they would not be eligible, because it's talking about businesses that have been started, but I can clarify that and get some clarification on that if somebody wasn't planning, because it's easy to make the argument of the money that was spent, the time, money, effort that was spent to get to that point, that even though they may not have technically started, they really did start the process. So I'll get clarification on that one.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And then if you want to hop into a little bit more in depth on the application you have pulled up, and then we can use the remaining time for other questions.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So this is what the application looks like. This is something too I'm gonna make sure Jessica has that can send it out, because I don't know about most people. I like to either print something out or be able to see it before I go online to fill it out, so I know exactly what information I need and just gathering the information before I go online to put in the information. So let me scroll up a little bit. So when you're putting what are you applying for, it's going to be the economic injury. Make sure you click that. Because if you're clicking physical damage, that's when it's going to say, well, there's no disaster in your area to do this, and it's going to automatically kick you out. So you do want to click the economic injury one. Oops. Sorry, I hit the wrong button there. Trying to scroll up. So it's asking your organization type, here your legal name, that's your business legal name, and then your trade name. So if you're doing something, you know, it's XYZ Holdings, but your DBA is XYZ company, then that's what that is looking at. Even if it says damaged property addresses, you want to put in the address of your physical location. That way they know that you're at least in that location, even though there is technically no damage to it. So down here, number 15, or section 15, whatever you want to call it, this is the section that there's not going to be any information inputted in there. Because this is what SBA will determine. And I think they're doing it this way because when you look at this is more of like, if a tornado came through, you're going to have damaged real estate, loss of inventory, machinery damage. So you can put a number on that. This is a little bit harder to put a number on because it's an invisible enemy, kind of an invisible disaster almost. So just think of it that way. Okay, so that's down to the second. I mean, these are all pretty basic information. No real big surprises here. So you just want to answer the questions, make sure everything is complete. But there is the filing requirements, and it gets into a little bit of detail on it here for the next few pages. So I just kind of want everybody to see the application. Again, I'm going to make sure Jessica has a copy of this that she can send out. That way you can look at it and you can get everything together before you go online to do it, because the last thing you want to do, the system can be slow sometimes during peak hours. So this way you can go in, get it done, and get out of the system. And then you're not waiting so long on trying to find information or threats of being kicked out while you gather the information. But are there other questions, Jessica? I think I've covered about everything I wanted to.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. Some of these I think are specific to that particular person's business or nonprofit. So I'm going to try to filter some of these to make it more broad. But I am getting a couple questions about, let me scroll back up here. One of the sections on the page about, somebody says their staff is part-time variable with schedules paid via 1099. Do they qualify as employees on page 1, field 12? Page 1, field 12. And I think we had another person ask.
I would say that if they're receiving a 1099, that's usually for the contractors and they're not considered an employee.
Okay. And then one person noticed here that, again, a little bit specific. Question 16 that's online is not the same on the paper application, and it's mandatory. So not sure how to answer that one.
Repeat that one again.
Question 16 online is not the same on paper application, and it's mandatory. So not sure how to answer.
Well, that's interesting because this is the one that they provided us.
Okay.
To hand out. Yeah, I mean, if it's mandatory and you have a question about that one specifically, I mean, feel free to give me a call and we can talk through it to see what to do. But that is interesting that it's not the same question in there than it is online. Because I haven't been able to go through the application online. Our staff is receiving a training today on the application and going through it step by step. So I will learn what that question actually is online sometime today.
Okay, terrific. Couple more here. If I have multiple operating companies, does each company apply separately, or is there a consolidated application?
Well, in the application, it does ask for any affiliates with the business because when we look at number of employees, we look at your net profit, whatever numbers we're looking at is for that company and its affiliates. So that information will be in here anyway. So they'll take that into consideration when filling out the application.
Okay. Can applying for a disaster loan disqualify you for other grants that may be available?
You know, I have had this question, and that's kind of hard to answer because we don't really know what other grants are available. If they're federal grants, you shouldn't be kicked out of the system out of that or ineligible for those because of this application. Now, when you look at possibly state or local grants, you're going to have to read the fine print on those to see if it would kick you out if you've received other funding or federal funding. So you may want to contact somebody, either me or somebody in our office, and we can get more clarification on that. But I have had that question. I asked our general counsel about it, and he said it's just really hard because we don't really know all the grants or other programs that are out there.
Okay. Are personal guarantees required?
Well, we're going to look at having enough collateral to be pledged. So if you don't have any real estate or even possibly equipment might be able to be thrown in there, For collateral, we may look at having personal guarantees. They aren't specifically mentioned for collateral, but that doesn't mean that they can't, that the SBA can't come back and say, well, we need something if you don't have any collateral. But personal is not mentioned at all in the application. Personal guarantees are not mentioned at all for collateral. So I guess the short answer is probably no.
Okay. Another question here asking if you know anything about SBA disaster capital opening up to SBA approved PLP lenders. Lenders that would include banks and non-bank SBA lenders who have the ability to underwrite and approve SBA 7A loans.
No, there has been, I have not heard any talk about involving the banks in the disaster loans. I think this is the one time that the SBA does direct lending, and so this money comes directly from the Treasury, and so I haven't heard anything about involving banks at this point in this process, but that could come because this is very unique, this situation. And so I have a feeling that the $50 billion that was allocated to us to do these loans is going to run out very fast. So if more money can't be generated for this, then banks may be involved.
Okay. I have someone, Alex, this may be something just for, maybe you can circle back with your team. Somebody said in a different webinar with the Small Business Development Center, what was presented to them said that personal guarantees and personal collateral would be required.
Okay,
So,
I will find out the answer
okay.
for sure on that. Yeah.
And everyone asking a question, if I don't get to you, I receive a log of all the chats, which I then can send to Alex, and he can kind of take that back to his team and go through them. Another question, do you have to be declined by a bank first?
No, there has been no mention of finding credit elsewhere. I think in typical disasters that has been the case, but again, this one is so unique, and people are so everything happens so quickly that we have not. There's been no mention of finding credit elsewhere for this loan.
Okay. Let's see, got a couple more coming in. Sorry, let's get through some of these questions. Somebody asked, where is Form 5C for sole proprietorship?
All the forms, you should be able to find those on SBA.gov. I was told that that's where they would be located. If you have trouble finding it on there, give me a call, let me know. I'll help you find it.
Okay. Another question, if a company is financially stable and does not want to deplete reserves, would you still be eligible? This person said their organization trying to keep all employees working on, I think, special projects, so we still have a payroll liability every 2 weeks.
I would still apply, but again, when they're looking at your information, you just may not be eligible for as much as you want because of being stable. But I would apply anyway, and because you never know, it's just all it's going to take is your time to do it. So I would go ahead and apply, and if you can get it, great. If not, then there may be other avenues that we can discuss with you.
Okay, if an organization never had their real estate appraised and it's being used as collateral, do they need to get an appraisal before applying? If not, how do they estimate it?
That is a new question. I have not heard that one. I will find out that answer as well, Jessica.
Okay. So I've gotten this a couple times. What do NGOs put in line 17? They have no owners. And this might be something you learn in your training today.
Yeah, my guess is you would put either the executive director or board president on that, because yeah, I understand that they may not technically be owned by anyone, but again, I will clarify that.
Okay. Does your business interruption have to above / deny a claim before applying? Maybe that's approved. Does your business interruption have to have above / deny, but I think maybe it's approve or deny a claim before applying?
No, you can, I think anybody can apply now. And so I would go ahead and apply and see, what happens, because we understand that everything's coming in very fast. And so people need help now. And so I would go ahead and apply, and we can get it figured out one way or another.
Okay. Someone just kind of pointed out as an FYI that they started this application on Friday, but during this call right now, a new section was just added. It's Form P-019. And again, that might be maybe just more of an FYI or something that will be touched on in your training today.
Yeah, that's I haven't heard anything on that. Again, this is a very fluid situation for us.
Right. And kind of last questions before we wrap things up here. I think the answer to this is just file now and don't wait, but someone asked, should we wait to file until we hear about the third round of stimulus in Congress for the loan / grant programs that have been discussed?
I would go ahead and apply, because you are under no obligation to accept the loan if it's offered to you. So if you do this and then the stimulus comes out and they're offering grants as opposed to loans, and that's the avenue you want to go down, then then you can always say no to the SBA loan. So I would definitely apply rather than waiting.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. I know we have a few questions that we weren't able to get to during this time, but as I said, I receive a log of kind of all the chats and questions that came in that I will pass along to Alex, and then that he can share with his team. So just because if you didn't get it in today, that doesn't mean you can't get it answered. So Alex, thank you. Just again, reiterating that sort of the disaster loan assistance is not something Alex typically does, but because this is such a widespread issue, it's all hands on deck for them as well.
Yeah.
Also want to apologize if anyone had some audio issues. Webinars are newer for us, for the chamber, so we are still kind of working out the tweaks in some of the technology. So I appreciate your patience, and we will probably be doing more webinars. In fact, we have one coming up this Friday with Taft Law Firm. So this really focuses on some of the legal questions. So if you go to, which I will pop up now, if you go to the Dayton Chamber's website, make sure you check out the events page, and you can see kind of some of our upcoming events. So be sure to keep this website handy. We are adding webinars as quickly as we can based on topics that you send to us. So more to come. And again, if you have questions, please reach out to the Chamber. Utilize the coronavirus employer resource guide, and have a great rest of your day. And thank you again for participating. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Jessica.